It looks like that Labour targeting, when you look at Lord Ashcroft's poll and Southampton itching, that's where it seems to be pushing them ahead of the general result, where Conservatives seem to be standing up quite well across the country in the local elections.
Well, I would disagree with that, because I think the polls are polls. The ones that count are where people put their votes. And if you look at what happened in Southampton on Thursday, in Southampton Itch in particular, the one that interests me personally.
As the candidate.
Of course. We polled more than Labour did. Now, it was marginal, but it's a marginal seat, isn't it? So a real poll is not the one where...
So you say Lord Ashcroft is wrong?
No, what I'm saying is the real polls are the ones where people vote. Yes. And that's the important one.
But these were European elections, local elections. Alex Wade sends us a tweet from the New Forest. He says, have local councillors lost their jobs due to national issues? Is that fair?
That's always been the case. That happens all the way through local government. When you have the government of Parliament, then the local councillors tend to suffer. That hasn't happened in Southampton. It happened in 2012, but we started making gains again this year, and we outpolled Labour in Southampton Itchin. So sometimes that is the case, but it doesn't have to be. And again, it's, as Peter says, about careful targeting and having the right conversations with people.
And it's a local election, different in different places, even though this is the European as well. Is there a danger that if Nick Clegg does get attacked by his own party, Royston Smith, that it would bring an end to the coalition, or it's a threat to the coalition, as Paul Goodman says in Conservative Home today?
Well, there is, of course there is. If Nick Clegg is the current Deputy Prime Minister and there was a leadership challenge which meant that Nick Clegg was no longer the leader, then there'd be a new Deputy Prime Minister. With a year to go and with the time that an election would take for an internal election before the Lib Dems and the rest, I don't think that it would be that critical. We would start to disengage, I think, not necessarily in government, but certainly as campaigning forces about 6 months out. So I don't think this is going to be critical for the government.
Conservatives are being nice to UKIP, it seems.
Well, I don't know what the Conservatives are. I've never had any problem with UKIP people. I've known lots of them for years. In fact, some of them used to be Conservatives. I don't think you should...
There are lots of them.
Well, perhaps, but you shouldn't go around, you know, calling people because you think that's the way to burst their bubble.
It's a very different way of doing politics, and the message, surely, to all the established parties is the public doesn't like what they see from the established parties.
There is an element of that, but here's the thing, Peter, and this is the thing that we do have to bottom out eventually. You can't have UKIP saying that volunteers should run the local football clubs because we don't need the state to do it, and in the same sentence say, but the council has closed all the pitches. You can't have it always, and that's fine to start with, and it's fine in protest. But when you have to start making decisions that affect people's lives, including how much you charge them for those services, it's a different game. And that's the difference between UKIP and currently the established parties.
It was a Euro vote, of course, wasn't it, Royston? How much difference do you think that made? I mean, if Nigel Farage comes top, are Conservatives going to have some sort of concession towards him? Do you think that would be sensible?
No, I think we should stay on the ground that we've set out, on the direction that the Conservative Party and the Prime Minister has set out, and that is a long-term economic plan. That is getting the economy right. That is doing the things that we've said we'll do. If we allow ourselves to get dragged around because on a particular vote it looks like UKIP are doing well or someone else or the Greens are doing well, then we will never make the progress that we need to do. And in Southampton, in my ward, which is not marginal particularly, but has been close in the past, I polled, and it's not about me, it's just about what happened.
It was because you managed to survive, and it was touch and go.
Managed to survive by getting more votes than UKIP and Labour put together. In fact, most of Labour's vote went to UKIP. So it wasn't me that was disproportionately affected, as people always say.
You've got many reasons to thank UKIP this morning, then.
Well, I have, but the point, I think that what I do want to say, and this is really, really important, because we talk about the established parties would say that, wouldn't they? Like Peter and like Kelsey, we had hundreds of people telling us they were going to vote UKIP in a protest. And when you asked them what the protest was, they couldn't even articulate it. They would say everything. In probably the best country in the world, people are protesting about everything. Now, if that continues, then we have to all recalibrate and see what we're doing wrong. But that's what a protest... But that's what a well, this is the first time, isn't it? It's the county, elections last time, and it was the local elections.
They were larger at the county elections.
But in Eastleigh, they didn't make the breakthrough. In Southampton, they did very well numerically, but didn't get a single seat. This sounds like a protest. Now, it might not be, and we'll have to look at that in the future. But at the moment, people are telling us, voters, they're important, we're not. We're just doing a job for them. We're their employees. They're telling us they're protesting. Okay.